So this other article, and this one we could just go on forever about. This one in particular is from Giant Freakin Robot, but it's U.S. government admits they have crashed UFOs and are testing them. I know the Sun did an article on this. I think this has been like pretty widely covered over the last 3 weeks. And that's where they're talking about the nitinol, which is like the titanium nickel mix we were talking about. It's interesting that this guy, Anthony Bragalia, he's a UFO researcher, and I've seen a couple different articles. And what he did was like instead of requesting government documents specifically on UFOs, he requested documents on nitinol and different metals, and that's where he
tricked them.
it was like a loophole, right? So he was able to figure out a way to get more documentation on what he knew was actually pertinent, and that brings right back to Roswell, right? Because now we're talking about the Roswell crash site, different metals being picked up there that were not common, especially at the time. So it's a pretty interesting one there.
Yeah, it was smart that he didn't talk about wreckage, UFOs. He was just talking about metal. And I mean, I don't know. Do you think they're that dumb, or that they were that easily fooled, where they were like, "Oh yeah, man, we've heard of that. We found it. Here's some documents that we've recorded that metal," and not knowing what else was connected to it? Like, is he that clever? You know?
Maybe. I don't know how the Freedom of Information Act exactly works, like who's monitoring it. You know what I mean? Like it's an interesting thought.
Well, a lot of it was redacted anyways, right?
Yeah, that's the thing, is they're redacting, right? And that he thought he may have found a loophole. But I mean, like, I think to really have a lot of faith in the precision of any entity, I think it can be a mistake, because you don't know who's on guard, right? Who's the guy who's putting the information? You know, is it somebody who's up top and they're like specifically checking everything before every individual who requests a Freedom of Information Act document? Or is it something where they're like, okay, well, if they request this, then give them that. But anything else, it's like, yeah, I mean, we're supposed to give it to him, right? I mean, I don't know. I really just don't. I don't know how specifically that's regulated. It'd be interesting to find out, like, who's on guard, when they're handing that paperwork out. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, I can't imagine it being just like in the typical filing cabinet. It's got to be in its own like special fucking cabinet, dude.
Well, if it's like a
like
search they
right
do
there.
with keyword, if it's like a search they do with keywords, I mean, I think that's kind of what's suggesting. I mean, I'm not sure, but if it's a search of keywords and they just they run a search, and then whatever, all the information they get out, and they hand that information out.
That makes sense. And they don't waste their time. They're like, I ain't gonna read these 500 pages of shit. Here you go. Here's the metal shit you asked for. Oh, but there happens to be UFO stuff in there, and we didn't check it, so fuck it.
Yeah, I mean, dumber shit's happened, that's for sure. So yeah, it's possible.
I mean, didn't the whole UFO thing come through on a COVID? Was it some COVID legislature, or it was
the most recent one?
What's the legislature for the money coming back to us?
Yeah, like the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah,
not the one that passed today, right? But
the previous one, the one that was before this. So before 2021, I believe, is when it was passed, like maybe December 2020. Yeah. And in there, it was just like snuck in there, like buried that, within the next like 3 or 4 months, I can't remember the time frame, that they have to release more UFO crap to the public, basically. I don't know who it was that requested it. I remember there was one particular senator that wanted that in there. They're like, all right, fine, no problem. It's kind of weird that they would just kind of sneak it in there, which makes it seem like it's deliberate, and they have a plan for the rate at which the information gets released.
Yeah, that's a possibility for sure, man.
And we're never going to really know how much information they have. You just gotta, they could come out in 5 years and say, hey, we've released everything slowly, this is all we got. But really, in some corner, in some bunker, they have a shit ton more evidence.
Yeah, you'll never know.
Yeah.
One thing about it, and this is just me, and so everybody's got their opinion, but like I don't really trust humanity in general. It's unfortunate.
Huh.
And I think that our government's smart enough to know that we can't trust a lot of the other larger entities, and that if, for instance, we did have a crash and there was advanced technology, and we do have these other powers that may use it in a way that, for instance, subjugates us, that maybe that would be, rather than like the typical, oh, they don't want to tell us because we're all going to freak out. Maybe they're just like, hey, we're not going to say anything because we want to see what we got here and make sure that we can have a more advanced take on it than our adversaries, because we know that they would come, we know what they would do if all of a sudden there was nothing stopping them. If they come up with some technology that was just, that it was so advanced that there's just that we couldn't even, say some kind of like advanced EMP to wherever we flew a plane over anywhere near them, our plane would just fall out of the sky, something like that. Like,
Yeah.
why wouldn't they do it?